So let me just make this clear. I'm recording only the speaker part. So it's only this thing that is seen and heard. So if you really want to be on the recording, you have to jump here in front and shout something. Otherwise, you're not on the recording. It's going to be put on, hopefully, YouTube later on. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm very happy to see so many people here today. For those of Okay, but the microphone doesn't work. So I'll just I'll just try to speak louder. Is that okay? Okay. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Alexander Velichkov, and I'm the current chair of the Philosophical Society. And we have gathered here today to celebrate a birthday party. It is the Lund Philosophical Society Lund Philosophical Society's 100th birthday. 100 years. 100 years is a really long time. It is almost a century. But what are we celebrating actually? What has this non-profit society founded all the way back in 1922 achieved in the last 100 years? What is it that the philosophers of the Philosophical Society have been up to? Well, many of us working in philosophy, especially us doctoral students, feel reluctant to call ourselves philosophers. When one hears the word philosopher, one imagines a weighty, authoritative figure, someone who is society's final court of appeal for judgments about the world and our place in it. But according to a nice story that has been told since ancient times, a philosopher was rather a term of humility. So the story goes that Pythagoras refused to be called Sophos, meaning wise. Instead, he said that he was merely a philosophos, a lover of wisdom. Pythagoras wanted to appear humble, but one feels a bit of what we nowadays call humble bragging. For Pythagoras, philosophers were special because they were not after glory, riches, comfort, and power, but rather devoted their time and efforts to the finest thing in life, human knowledge. Like most nice foundational stories, this one is probably false. There are speculations that the actual original meaning of the word was pejorative. It may have even meant the exact opposite of what Pythagoras wanted it to mean. During one period in antiquity, people used to mock the men who paraded as wise but were clearly not. Such men were called philosophers, and the meaning was something more like wise men wannabes. The philosophers were the ones who appeared devoted to the pursuit of knowledge, but were actually mere hobbyists in it for the fame and glory. I think both of these stories about the origins of the word philosophers point to the nature of what we're trying to do when we do philosophy, and also of what we're celebrating today. So we human beings have a propensity to pursue knowledge, but this is just one fragile motivation among so many others in our turbulent and dangerous human life. We want to be safe, happy, powerful, recognized by others, and it is not uncommon that these desires conflict with the love of truth. Doing philosophy together is an attempt to find a sanctuary, a space in a community where we can cultivate this love and protect it as much as possible from such things as our own vainglory, tribalism, and careerism. Today, we're celebrating the efforts of the men and women who, as members of the Philosophical Society of Lund, have pursued this task for 100 years. They did so with admirable vigor. How do I know? Well, because we looked. Earlier this year, we, the current board, dove into the archives of the society to see what it has been up to for all this time. And what we found was truly wonderful. The tumultuous historical and philosophical tides of the 20th century were reflected in the activity of the society's members. So among our discoveries are notes on philosophical debates about women becoming priests, a certificate making Niels Bohr an honorary member of the society, a briefcase of personal documents that tell the story of Manfred Moritz, a philosopher who fled Germany in the 1930s and came here to Sweden. A curious lecture note in a student's textbook from the 1950s, which reads, "If you don't believe in objective moral values, you're a Marxist." Many famous philosophers visited Lund to give talks at the society, such as Bertrand Russell, Peter Strauss, and Richard Hare. And many of the society's members, mostly students at the time, went on to become famous artists, writers, politicians, scholars, and indeed philosophers. Today we have invited 4 such former members of the Philosophical Society, all of them now highly esteemed scholars at Lund University, to give talks commemorating the society and philosophy. These are Svante Nordin, Lena Haldenius, Björn Pettersson, and Peter Jardenfors. And so here is the program for today. I want to some practicalities. We'll first hear Svante and Lena's talks, and this will be followed by a more or less hour-long reception with some drinks and snacks. There's a rumor that there will be cake. At 5:15, we will return here to hear the talks given by Björn and Peter. And at around 6:15, 6:30, we will conclude with a buffet dinner. So both the reception and the dinner will be in the Lux staff pantry. If you don't know where that is, just follow the crowd. But I'm sure many of you know, most of you know where that is. That's why there will be a crowd. And although the talks are free for everyone, the reception and the dinner are for members only, since we'll be serving alcohol and that needs to be controlled. So we have the solution with the bracelets. The bracelet. If you're a member, you get a bracelet, and then we don't have to check you again and again. Right. To get your bracelet, you talk to one of my colleagues, like Robert, our treasurer. Yeah, if you want to become a member, by the way, it's really easy. You give us your name and 40 kroner, and we sign you up, and you're a member for this whole calendar year. Okay. Now, before I end, I would like to also express our gratitude for the contributions given to the society by the different funding bodies throughout its history, especially to the Erik and Gurli Hultengrens Fund for Philosophy, which has been essential and which has made this evening possible.